I've had a lot of questions lately about the difference between primary language lessons, intermediate language lessons, and language lessons for today. Which one should I use? Which one replaces which? Lots of questions, a little bit of confusion. I figured I'd do what I can to help out explaining them. We'll start with primary language lessons. This is a text written in 1911. And it's been used for a very long time. It's an excellent book. It was recommended by My Father's World for 2nd and 3rd grade, half the book each year. It was written for teachers to use in schools a long time ago, so there's not a lot of teacher helps in the text. They had expected the teachers to have taken courses to teach them how to use these kinds of books. Was wonderful then, a little bit more difficult for the modern day homeschooler who doesn't have the privilege of sitting in those classes to learn how each lesson is used. My Father's World no longer recommends this because the author has created her own version called Language Lessons for Today. She has taken this text and others similar to it from the same time period and updated them using modern language, modern grammar rules that have changed somewhat over the years. This is called Language Lessons for Today Grade 2. There's also a volume for Grade 3. It's no longer one book for both years. It is 2 separate books. This is wonderful. It includes little helps for the teacher to help you to understand what the point of each lesson is. A little bit better than this one, which has pretty much none. There is a separate teacher's guide you can buy for this book. I actually didn't find it all that helpful. It's also more cumbersome to have a separate text, but this one is wonderful. The old book sometimes had picture studies like this. Cute little black and white prints. The new book has some of the same picture studies, like the one I showed you, that have been updated and printed in color, which is wonderful. Some of them are even full page color. So they're a lot more fun to look at. The first one I showed you gives an example of how the language has been updated. This is the picture. And the text reads, "Tell what you see in the picture. How do you suppose the child happened to fall into the water? Where was the dog? What did he do? What is the name of this picture? What is the name of the artist? Write a story about this picture." And I was reading from primary language lessons. You can see it says, "How do you suppose the child happened to fall into the water?" which is a beautiful sentence. It has been updated to, "How do you think the child fell into the water?" which is a more modern construction, easier for 2nd grade children to understand, to get the point. The point of this lesson is to observe a picture and to talk about it, to be able to have a conversation, to be able to have some thoughts that you express with your mouth. That is the first step to writing, because if you can think it, then you can say it. But if you can say it, then you can write it. So teaching children to write first help them by teaching them to think, second by how to say what they're thinking, and finally moving that onto the page through their hand. If the kid doesn't have anything in their head, they don't have any ideas, opinions, thoughts, there is no way they're going to be a good writer. So this is primary language lessons and language lessons for today. I used this text completely all the way through. There wasn't this option, and loved it. It was wonderful. We did a lot more orally than it asks for because it was written for a classroom, and it's just easy enough for my one student to talk to me about the lessons, which is a great option, especially if you have an advanced learner or a slow learner, because you don't get bogged down in the ability to write answers. You can teach language lessons orally. Now, that's 2nd and 3rd grade. This book, Intermediate Language Lessons, was recommended by My Father's World for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, 1/3 of the book each year. They no longer recommend it for 4th grade because there is a primary language lesson, or language lessons for today, grade 4 text that they recommend for 4th grade, but they still recommend it for 5th and 6th grades because the author has not completed a volume for 5th and 6th grade at this time. But this book is very similar to the first one. It moves a little more into the slightly more technical grammar side of things because your child is older. This is a lot more gentle. This starts getting a little bit more hefty, which I like. It was time for my student to move up a little, have a little bit more expected of her. So I've really enjoyed this book so far. We have finished the first third and we'll begin the second part 2. We'll begin part 2 in January. So hopefully that helps a little. Primary language lessons. Language lessons for today. Grades 2 and 3. There's a grade 4 for the first portion of this, but you'll still need this book for grades 5 and 6. And a teacher's guide if you just choose to go that route or already have this book on hand. I believe there's one for this text as well. I've never picked it up. I hope that helps.